This podcast is my attempt to document the journeys of forward thinking entrepreneurs so we get to learn from their stories. What you're about to watch is a recap of some of the key moments from some guests right here on Visionary Voices podcast. Take a listen and enjoy.
I was on a speaking tour in New Zealand, actually, on this thing called Inspire New Zealand. And we had the opportunity to go speak in the stadiums and engage, do workshops. But at one of the ones that were doing the event, there was this amazing singer that was local to New Zealand that was there. And so she got on stage. Kind of the New Zealand people would say that she was like the Adele of New Zealand. She just had this incredible, powerful voice, really good stories inside of her music. And after kind of the event, and we were all out kind of having a drink and having dinner, I was just chatting with her. I just asked her, hey, like, what about this singing is that you are so passionate about? And she just said, I just love, having my lyrics and having my words impact people's lives to see that they can go on and kind of live this beautiful world, live this beautiful life. And my lyrics and what I sing, I want to inspire people to be able to pursue that. And so I asked her, I'm like, well, what happens if you lose the ability to be a musician? You can't sing anymore for whatever reason. And she was like, oh man, I'd be so devastated. I wouldn't know what to do with myself, and it would just wreck my whole life. And so I asked her that for a particular reason, because I wanted to get to this point that I asked her after. My second question was, okay, but what if that thing you said you want to do, inspire people to be able to feel that they can live in this beautiful life, what if you could do that other ways? What if it wasn't from just singing? What if you could do that by writing? What if you could do that by a different career path? And she said, oh, I'd be stoked, I'd be happy, and I'd still be fulfilled and happy. And so in an instant, it shifted from, no, it's not singing and you as a musician that is creating fulfillment in your life. It's actually this ability that you have to, whatever it may be, to inspire people to see the beauty in this world and live a beautiful life.
I've always saw the power of arts to be able to open up hearts and minds. So much of the work that I do, so much work that you do, it is about connecting with people. And it is about being able to come into a conversation saying, we actually have a lot more in common than we think. And so much of what brings us together and the commonalities comes from what moves us emotionally, and art is connected to emotion.
You need to have the right mentors in your life, because mentors are very powerful. Many of us are born resilient and all of that. You still need external validation to quell some of the voices in your head and to march forward with confidence that you can do it. I'm very blessed to have very good mentors, people who see more than I see and on whose shoulders I could see further. And the challenge I had then was I didn't have anybody to look up to.
Yes.
And that's the problem with trailblazers, right? You are trailblazing a path that didn't exist before you. Right now, we're the largest Black-owned firm in the country. I didn't have that at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone who had maybe 10 lawyers in their firm who looked like me, who was as young as me, who had the same heritage. Nobody to look up to.
Yeah.
So I was delving into a world that had not been traversed or explored in Calgary for someone, who has the same color of my skin, sound of my voice, and who has the same heritage and youth. I was 28 at the time.
Wow.
So it was tough. I needed people who had seen further to validate that move. Because if I had gotten it wrong, that would have been the end. Maybe to an extent, that would have had the significant impact of my career. If I had undertaken that move and then maybe 6 months later, everything crashes. I didn't know how to hire, fire, continue to build a firm. So it was important for me to seek and obtain external validation from the right people.
I remember growing up as a kid, and I think it comes from my mom, because my mom always would be like, because we were growing up apartheid, she was always like, just go and network, just go talk to people, just like, because that's kind of like what helped her, right? And I used to hate it. I'm an introvert. I used to hate networking events. I would rather like do a one-on-one with somebody than go to like a room full of strangers. That's just me. So being in jobs where it sort of forced me to have to talk to people figuring out how I'm going to navigate that sales process, and it'll look different and that networking, it'll look different for different people. So you then learn like what becomes your sales persona. So if you're not naturally a salesperson, do you have to get like, put on your Sasha Fierce if you have to be able to go out there and sell, or is your sales, your networking style very different? Like I said, like I don't like going to a room. I'll go into a room full of strangers, but my preference is to say, hey, I reach out to you, we were at this event, let's go grab a cup of coffee, because I enjoy one-on-one or small group interaction. I find that more valuable use of my time. So you got to navigate and figure out what works for you, and then apply that to your business and how you're going to sell. Whether that could be, I don't want to go door to door or go to conferences or go whatever the sale, however your sales model is. It might be, I'm comfortable creating a video and running ads for this. I'm comfortable doing interviews and getting into press and doing write-ups in my industry, whatever circulars, so that's going to grow my name, and then people are going to look me up and then buy whatever I'm selling. You got to figure out what that model of sales is going to work for you, but you have to learn those sales skills to be successful.
I remember when I was first learning about the financial services world and understanding that space, I was teaching a lady and her family about just some pretty, basic principles, but basic as in like they're not advanced, but not basic as in not everybody knows them. And so they were really running their whole life in the red, raising their couple kids, trying to put them through sports. And I remember just in one meeting showing a couple things, shifting a couple way of their payments were that she was instantly within one meeting, by just changing a couple things, she was able to be in the black. She was able to not be going negative every month from a couple tweaks. And I think she sat in front of us, and I was with one of my trainers, and she just started crying because she had that sense of like relief that it's like, wow, I get to I don't have to be worried about that component, which was pretty awesome. And then also I think now just with my current business partners, I think it's amazing every time I get to chat with them, and we talk about how we're all kind of on this mission to be able to look at that impact and heart-centered driven when it comes to building responsible communities. And I think that's another big, what I would say is like something I like as a story, that the three of us as partners, my partner Carolyn and Michael, we chat a lot about how, when we've came together, we have this big vision to go forward, but a lot of us at different parts of our lives, we're doing it on our own with our teams, of course, but now combined, now we're able to really put extra fuel to that fire and just, take quantum leaps towards our goals that we have when it relates to the impact that we want to create on this planet.
I had a client who worked for an organization, a large Canadian organization actually, that does very well known, and he was at a VP level, and he was also starting his own company. And his issue when he came to me was that he just found that he could only get to a certain point. He was just frustrated and struggling with getting it off the ground. And then through working with him together, a huge part of his issue was time management and focus, and not having a plan, a set plan for what he wanted. Like if I asked him, like, where do you want this place to be in 5 years? And he couldn't answer that question. And so we broke it down, and we put together a 3, 6, 12, and 18-month plan. And then, what were the most important people that you had to have involved in your organization to make it work, to get it where you want it to go. And then within 6 months, he brought on an individual that we worked on together and brought in, and he acquired his first $1 million client like within 6 months. So he was pretty happy about that. That's at his own
startup that he was working at.
Yes, right. So that was his own thing. That was, and that's what he needed to see. Like that's what he wanted to do and see what he could do. But he was just so caught up in almost like a spider web. You get stuck in the middle, and then you're ripping down all these lines to try and get out, but you don't have a path. Like you have to have a path. You have to have a plan to get where you want it to go. And that's pretty much the first thing I do with most of my clients.
So I'm a big fan of looking for the very simple reasons first, right? If there's a very simple reason that you may be feeling out of alignment, like you just broke your leg and you're in a lot of pain, Go with that first before you're having a spiritual crisis. Right? So look for the obvious first, and then when the obvious are all taken care of, then I think we can start to look to the spiritual, the energetic world, and think, oh, well, what's being prepared for me? Maybe the universe is preparing something for me, and I'm just ready to soar into it, so it'll feel a little more comfortable.
For more insightful conversations with entrepreneurs, check out this video right here. I think you'll love it. Continue to enjoy, and I'll see you there.